I start telling people about hell, I might just scare them off. Where are you going to scare them off to? Hell number 2? Or are you just going to sit there and let them burn?
This is Chris from Don't Let Them Burn. Welcome to the program. This is Hollywood Matrix, episode 13, and today we're going to be talking about the movie Dark Matrix, and Dark Phoenix. We've been trying to do this one for a couple of years now, so here we are. And don't forget to check out don'tletthemburn.com. Follow me on Telegram and X, and I'll show you a few more in a second. And don't forget that we are user supported. So if you can give, please give. There are many ways to give. You can buy T-shirts. You can donate to Patreon. And check it out all in the link tree, and you'll find how to help us out there. And today, my guest is Kevin Shrum. How you doing?
Doing good. How you doing, Chris? Good to be back with you.
All right. Yeah. So this is going to be
been a few minutes.
Yeah, it's been a few minutes, and this is going to be good because, of course, you have your expertise in the comic realm, and I have my own little expertise with entertainment and some of the comic stuff. So this is going to be an education for people that don't know. If you haven't seen this movie, it's called Dark Phoenix. It's fine. We'll catch you up on some things. We're going to start off explaining some of the comic book issues. But before that, let us, for those of you that don't know what this ministry about, this quick videos I'm about to show you will give you an idea. You ready? Yeah. All right. This is Chris from Don't Let Them Burn. Let me tell you what it's all about. Our first goal is to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ to a lost and dying world through media. Our second goal is to expose the works of darkness, starting with entertainment, a device the devil uses to control your mind and soul. We also get into Bible prophecy, world events, the occult, UFOs, and other weird subjects. Why? Because these are the subjects that are interwoven into a lot of your entertainment. It's in your music, your video games, your reading materials, like comic books. I love them comic book movies, right? You really want to know the truth about some of these subjects and how to protect yourself and your families? Then subscribe now. Don't let them burn. All right. So again, you can follow on YouTube, obviously, Rumble. Don't let them on Telegram. That's the blue logo. Don't Let Them Burn official, and on X. There are other avenues, but those are the main ones. Don't want to confuse you. All right. So again, this one is on Dark Phoenix. I forgot what year this came out.
I think it's 2019.
2019. All right. So it's a part of the X-Men universe.
And it was the last Fox X-Men movie.
Yeah, the last Fox X-Men movie. And they had other iterations of the Phoenix saga. And later on, we'll show you a couple of clips from that version. From those
they actually tried to encapsulate this one in the Last Stand. They tried to like smash it in there with the rest of the story. So
right. And this is pretty much a soft reboot of what went on in The Last Stand, but it was terribly botched. But this isn't about the quality of the movie or anything like that. We could talk about all sorts of things, but this is about some of the secrets in the movie. So we're going to try to go beat by beat, following the movie, and we got a ton of slides. I had to cut out parts of the movie, so part of the third act is gone, but most of the movie is intact, and so that we keep the context of what's going on in there. So first of all, let's see here.
Well, speaking to the movie real quick, I guess is this supposed to be, I guess, an alternate timeline after Days of Future Past? As what I was kind of understanding. Maybe that's after they did the reboot, they was sort of considered maybe an alternate timeline after Wolverine changed it during that time in that movie.
Well, it's sort of. I mean, it followed the one from the 60s.
Mm-hmm. First Class, yeah.
First Class, yeah. So this is them as youth, in their 20s, and later on, I think this is the one that is before Apocalypse, right? So
actually, this one followed Apocalypse.
Followed Apocalypse. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a soft reboot.
Right.
that's why they were able to do the Dark Phoenix story again. And like Kevin just said, it's the last of the Fox movies before Disney bought Fox, and so now they're in charge of another X-Men trilogy that's on the way pretty soon. So these are the that came out. So X-Men, X-Men 2 United, X-Men The Last Stand, which we'll cover just a little bit. X-Men Origin Wolverine, First Class, The Wolverine, Apocalypse, Days of Future Past, and Logan. So we'll try to explain some of the characters in this movie as well. And part of the whole X-Men franchise as well is the infamous Deadpool movies. I don't think I'll be covering those. It's kind of, it's tedious. It's tedious and very crass. So, but anyway, give us a little background on Jean Grey and the X-Men, the Dark Phoenix.
As far as the comic books, the Chris Claremont and John Byrne run.
Yeah.
Yeah, started there. You've got, I think that middle one is that 107 or 101, the one in the middle?
101.
101, yeah, I thought it was. I couldn't. But 101 is actually the origin story of the Phoenix, and sort of similar to the movie in a fact that they're in outer space. But they were actually doing a rescue of some of the X-Men. And when their ship starts to go down, Jean volunteers to pilot it, knowing that she can hold it together with her telepathic powers. And the ship actually crashes in the ocean. And when it comes back up, she is, I guess, born into the Phoenix, as she is. I guess when she's down there near death, it activates the Phoenix power within her, and there she comes up out of the water, which, like I said, is different from the origin story that we're given in the movie, and more like, again, similar to some of the mythological stories. I guess we'll talk about as well, as she comes up out of the water, as like I said, she goes down in the ship. Mm-hmm. And from there, like I said, she becomes just, a great, powerful team member in the X-Men. And then the story arc of the Dark Phoenix comes in. I want to say, let me double check this one. Got it right here before me. The first is number 129. The story arc begins with the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. The Hellfire Club coming in.
And that was class.
Yeah, and when they come in, they're actually one of the founding members of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants mastermind. He works to sort of partition her mind and sort of makes her live in a delusion. And that's what sort of starts the cascading events then that brings about the change in her personality and changes her to Dark Phoenix as he's sitting there messing with her mind and making her, he actually makes her fight the X-Men as he's, like I said, making her think she's someone other than she is. And all that culminates, as I said, she then becomes the Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, and it's also associated with satanic ritual abuse, SRA, for other people that know it by that.
Maybe MK Ultra, yeah.
Ultra, all the same thing, just different names, right?
Yeah, it's where it's a trauma-based, sort of like you said, a compartmentalization of the mind, where trauma is added, and that way they can, like I said, sort of split the personality, and then bring that personality forth. Sometimes with certain words they can mention. I know we've all heard the conspiracy theories about the Wizard of Oz and how those terms in that movie are used in MK Ultra. Well, may not be a conspiracy theory, but we've all heard those theories about that. So
right. So as far as a phoenix, now a phoenix is a bird that dies and rises out of the ashes, and this relates to other pagan gods, goddesses, and all that. Go back here.
And it's I guess particular note there, it dies of its own self. It burns itself up and then rises up out of the ashes.
Yeah, and it also relates to the Ouroboros. I don't have
right, exactly.
But sorry, the Ouroboros is the tail eating itself, and there's some sexual connotations and whatnot, but this is the story of the birth of a goddess. Okay, that's the entire story, and the story is very, very, very simple. Even though I took hundreds of screenshots, I noticed that the story is just there. It's just bullet points. That's all it is. Nothing really complex about it. But if you're a casual watcher and don't have discernment, you'll be like, okay, well, that was an okay movie, or it was a bad movie, or whatever. You don't really care. But there's a message being sent to you. Right. And so before we start, is there anything else about the comic book that you want to say? Because we're about to get into the movie.
Yeah, I guess the comic is more cosmic oriented, as you know, they're taken to the moon and they're actually fighting some of the aliens there on the moon, where actually then Jean will kill herself, to actually save the X-Men, which once again is the Phoenix, consuming itself in its own fire. She actually killed herself. And then I believe the issue then of the Avengers is 263. She is resurrected and I'll stay pre 1990 on the comics, because after the 1990s and into the 2000s, Marvel resurrects her over and over again. Right. But the original story in the Avengers, they find a cylinder much like an egg there on the bottom of the ocean. The Avengers find it, take it to the Fantastic Four, and it's actually Jean Grey, her body. And what I guess it's sort of the story is that the Phoenix Force actually made a copy of her body that was killed there in the battle, and it wasn't actually herself. So they bring her back again as Marvel Girl in the I guess the late 80s, and in the comics called X Factor.
Yeah, and she's also related to Ishtar, Inanna, and all.
Yeah, if you want to know, Ishtar was supposedly birthed out of the Euphrates River, and egg landed in the Euphrates. So, everything that has to do with her in the comics, is coming out of the water. From X-Men 101 to the issue of the Avengers. So,
right, even in X-Men, the one with the Dark Phoenix. I keep forgetting the name. Anyway, when she came out to kill Scott, she came out of the water.
Right.
And the X-Men 2, when she died, you saw her, the Firebird, there in the water. So there's a ton of symbolism. And again, this story has been told over and over and over again, not just in movies, but in different forms of fiction and in folklore. So, all right. So this movie now,
and the movie, I guess, just on the onset, it was originally planned by Fox to be a 2-part movie, which I think they were going to incorporate the Hellfire Club and the building up. So that's the one I think this movie lacks, is a lot of character building, because it's very compressed. Yeah. So it's actually 2 movies in one, and they're leaving a lot out. So
yeah, it's very beat by beat by beat, and you could kind of tell what's coming, especially if you saw the other X-Men movies.
Right.
So as we move, for those that came in late, again, this is about X-Men Dark Phoenix, and we fade to black. We get the fanfare of 20th Century Fox. I didn't put that in here. And remember that the X-Men kind of can't exist without the theory of evolution, and you're going to see this theme throughout. Okay? And so when we go back, when we're in the black now, Jean says, and she's actually talking to the audience, who are we? Are we simply what others want us to be? Are we destined to a fate beyond our control? Or can we evolve? So there's number 1, right? And become something more. And so again, this movie is about the birth of a goddess. It doesn't seem that to the natural mind, but that's what it's about, okay? And of course, the X-Men are not human. So they think they've evolved from some primordial ooze, okay? And so from here, we go to 1975, where there's a song playing, and we get to the car radio. And the car radio is important, not about the numbers, but it's about what's about to happen. And
And I
so
think one of the songs is what, Werewolves in London, I think. One of the songs playing. I thought that was
I didn't know
particularly interesting.
I didn't know what it was, but yeah. So the young lady in the back who's Jean, and that's her parents, is asking, "Oh, can you change the station?" And the I think this mother says, "When the song is over, honey," and she said, "You said that 2 songs ago," and then chuckles, and the parents chuckle, and so she says, this is a classic, right? And say, "Okay, what about I Make You a Promise?" This is the mother, Elaine. When you're old enough to drive, you can listen to whatever music you want to. Hmm? And that's a deal. And so the song changes seemingly on its own. But then she says, "John," and he says, "Wasn't me," right? And they're kind of looking at each other here, not surprised, okay? And so the mother says, "Jean, did you?" So they know something is up with this girl. It's not something that is the first time it's happening. And so she says, "I didn't do anything." And then the mother changes the channel, or the station, I should say, and the radio static crackles, and the song changes again. And then she says, "Gene, what are you?" And she says, I don't know. It's not me, right?" And the radio changes rapidly. A cacophony of songs, radio broadcast playing, and softly she says, "Quiet." Right. So there's something stirring up in this little girl that she doesn't understand. I'm just gonna call it right now. It's occult power. Now, uh, we don't know where it came from in this story, but anyway, um,
And I was saying the difference in the comic is it was a little friend of hers that gets killed in an accident, and then by Jean's, I guess, being an empath and telepathic, she experiences her death, which causes the trauma. So there's a little bit of difference there in the origin story.
and we're gonna mention that word you just mentioned a couple times in this. So she's saying quiet, and then there's a cacophony of songs continuing because the radio station keeps changing. And she says, "Quiet." Now, this reminds me of the movie Firestarter,
Yeah.
right, by Stephen King. And the young girl would tell when she feels her psychic abilities or pyrotechnic abilities start to manifest. She says, "Back off, back off." I used to watch this a lot when I was a kid, and they did a remake. I believe this was in 2021 or something. It wasn't great, but not neither of the movies are that great. But the first one was better. But anyway, this scene here reminds me of Firestarter. So anyway, as we continue, radio chatter, music grows louder, and she says, "Quiet," and then quiet again. And as you see there on the right, the mother is actually passing out. I didn't take every screenshot to animate it because I can get in trouble for that. But anyway, that's what's happening to the mother. So the dad is trying to grab the wheel here, and they're going head on into a pickup truck. Horn, tire screeching, massive accident here. Glass shatters, groans. And what's going on in this scene right here is, if you could see there's a translucent bubble around her. She's not necessarily doing it on purpose. It's just the power is manifesting because of the trauma. Okay. And so the glass can't touch her. So everything is metal creaking, and the car keeps flipping, and boom, damage. Both parents are upside down, and she's upside down. And now you could tell through the rearview mirror there that the mother is dead. Okay, we don't know anything about the father, dead or alive. We don't know anything yet, and so the car's there on the open road. Next scene. Now, you want to say anything about this scene first, or you want me to keep going?
No, you can keep going.
All right. So the next scene, she's in the hospital, and there's some music playing there. by the score of Hans Zimmer. And the doctor says she doesn't have a scratch on her. And the female doctor says no internal injuries either, pretty much, right? Male doctor, are you sure she was in the car? Female doctor, yeah. Male doctor, who's going to tell her? The secret that he's hiding will be revealed later. And so the next scene, here comes Professor X, also known as Charles Xavier. And so she says, where are my parents? He says, my name is Charles Xavier. And she says, they're dead, aren't they? And he says, yes, they are. Now, I want you to notice something about Charles Xavier. This is a through line of the whole movie. He lies constantly. And I won't tell you what he's lying about. Those of you that have seen the movie, you know exactly what I'm saying. So she says, so what happens now? And he sighs, and then he says, well, that's why I'm here, actually. You see, I have a school that is for young people who are like you, special. Now, remember, we have to separate the allegory from reality from the fiction, okay? So what he's trying to explain to her here is that her occult abilities are natural, okay? He says she's saying special is just a nice word for weird or crazy, or that's a question. And he says, yep, sometimes it is. Sometimes it can be a word used to describe people who are significant or amazing or just really cool. So he's reaching into a childlike mentality with that really cool thing. You got gifts, Gene. Don't you know? Do you know what? Take this pen, right? It's something that, well, actually, just take it. It's a gift. Now, you could choose to draw, or you could use it to poke someone's eyes out. But either way, it's still just a pen. It's just a gift. And what you choose to do with your gift, well, that's entirely up to you. But if you want to use it to do good stuff, well, I can help. You're not like the other doctors, she says. And he starts chuckling. And he says, no. And you're not like the other patients. And so I'll stop there and explain to you what just happened. What he's saying, the translation of what he's saying is black magic and dark magic, you could choose which path you want to go on. That's what he's explaining to her. That's the message. Because the natural mind will only pick up on the gift, the word gift. He's explaining dark and light, black magic, white magic, yin and yang. You use it as a tool. And you've heard a lot of witches say this. I only practice white magic. I don't hurt people. All right. So anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, I mean it's a unique juxtaposition there where he's like it's between you can write with it or poke somebody's eye out with it, which goes to what you're saying. It's a dark path against the to a good path. So just an example used out there just I guess sets the tone for what's going on here.
Exactly. And there are many terms out there for this: the right hand path, left hand path, and we can go on and on and on. So Charles, who is a psychic, convinces her she doesn't need fixing, right? And so he takes her to the school in his Rolls Royce, and they drive up, and Charles says, what do you think? She says, I can't stay here. He says, okay, why not? And she says, it's too nice. And she sighs, and he says, she says, I break things. And he says, well, how does this sound? I break things. No, sorry. If you break something, anything, I can fix it. So this is a part of his problem too. He wants to fix things. he wants to solve all issues, and in fact, he has a messiah complex. But anyway, she says not anything, and he says, "I can help you. I can help you so that you never have to break things ever again." Now remember, he's trying to fix her. Okay, so she says, "You think you can fix me too?" And he says, "No, no, because you are not broken." And then she gives a little smile. Anything you have to say about that before we move forward?
No, I don't think so.
Right. So this is all going to come full circle anyway. But
Yeah.
In the next scene, we see a launch countdown from NASA, right? And then we get the reveal of the logo for the movie Dark Phoenix. Now that circle in the middle there is very important. I don't want you to fixate on it, but in witchcraft and the occult, the circle, you stand inside the circle. That's where the power is. When you're raising a force, a demon, whatever you want to call it, the circle is put on fire. Not in all cases, but there are some cases where you see, a lot of cases actually, that's where you see the circle put on fire. So that's a little symbolism there for you. Let's see. So this shuttle here, I think it's called Endeavor. Now we jump from the 70s to 1992. Okay, and so this is the mission. This is a retell of the comic story, but it's not the same story. Okay, so so the engines are throttling up, and one of the guys says, "Hey, I'm picking up something sorry, I'm picking something up here." And we see it on the radar, and it says, "Ma'am, I got something on satellite 6." And it says the astronaut 2 says, "Houston, we have a problem." And so it switches back now to the mansion where they're listening to the TV, and it says Space Shuttle Endeavour has encountered problems on its mission. And the answer is no. Okay. All right. So Hank and Professor X are talking about the engine, and he's saying that the jet can't go that high because Professor X wants to do some rescue mission. And then he says, even with the new booster rockets and all your modifications, and he says they're built for acceleration, not elevation. Okay, not this, no. And then the telephone rings, and it's the president. So he's talking to Xavier, and he says, "Are you seeing this on TV?" And so they had a little talk there. So, and then the X-Men now are going on the mission that they just said they couldn't do. Right? And so here, Raven, who is also, what's her comic name again?
Mystique.
She's a shapeshifter. And she's saying it's a simple extraction that we go into space and we get the astronauts, we bring them home. And any questions? And somebody says, yeah, like 1,000. I think that's Scott that's saying that. And then Kurt, who is the demon-looking dude, the Catholic demon, says, "Are we going into?" He says, "We're going into space," and it's like, "Yeah." So this is Quicksilver. He says, "We're doing space missions now." Cool. Now remember, these guys are all young, super young, and it says, "Will the X-Jet even get that high?" Right? And it says, "Well, technically and then who interrupts the man?" There's a feminist through line here as well. So
exactly,
it will get us there. Now she doesn't know; she's not an engineer. All right, it will get us there, and quite rudely too. So
yeah, yeah, I noticed that runs throughout the movie.
Yeah. So now Jean is asking, "Are you okay with this?" And she says, "I forget sometimes you can read minds. I didn't need to read your mind. It's written all over your face, right?" And so you telling me it's good? It's good. So their backstories with these people, they have a camaraderie from the last two movies, and so they're cool with each other. But again, Jean is not, the leader type, at least not at this point. And so she says, if anything goes wrong, I'll turn us around in a heartbeat. Now remember, both parties just had a banter about it can't make it. But anyway, that's the writer's fault for this movie in this movie.
Right.
So she says, I know you will. And so they start taking off. And this is the X-Jet, which is modeled after the SR-71 Blackbird from Lockheed. The way I know, because I used to study it. So anyway, the newsman says a second ship has been spotted in the sky, and we are being told the president has called in the aid of the X-Men. So the people that are not humans are going to save humanity. All right. And so we see Professor X in Cerebro, which was introduced in the last two movies, and he uses it to find other mutant or augment his psychic abilities to read minds, right? So from here, he goes to talking directly to NASA, right? Ladies and gentlemen of NASA, this is the voice of Charles Xavier, another person with occult powers, all right? And ladies and gentlemen, okay, he says that. Let me see. Could somebody please apprise me of the situation? And they start talking right back to him like this is not strange. So we are picking up solar flares, right? And we believe the heat shorted out their electricity. They lost control, communication, and orientation, pretty much everything. And he says, not to worry, mission control, help is on the way. And so we see them flying out into space there, the stratosphere. And Scott is easing Jean's nervousness, anxiety. And they continue out into space there. And the plane starts to freeze up a little bit because they're in the freezing cold. And so anyway, Raven says, that's a solar flare? And Hank says, I've never seen a reading like this. So everything is off the charts. And clearly, it's not a solar flare. I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? So that's just another shot of the jet. And then you probably can't see it that well in the audience, but that's a shot of the jet. The space shuttle is a tiny little thing in the center there, and the solar flare is on, or the thing is on the left. Okay, so they're all looking at the shuttle now and getting closer to it, but the shuttle is spinning out of control. So the orientation thrusters are misfiring. And that cabin won't hold it. This is Hank talking, or Beast. That cabin won't hold for long. Kurt, can you get in there? Kurt is the demon Catholic dude. What's his name?
Nightcrawler, yeah. Nightcrawler.
Nightcrawler. He says it's spinning too fast. I can't see. His power is to transport himself to all sorts of different locations when he bumps into the smoke. Okay.
Yeah, he can basically teleport, yeah.
Teleport, yeah. So anyway, she says, Scott, I need you to blast that thruster. And he says, slow down the pin. That's what she says. And then so he gets into his Luke Skywalker on the Millennium Falcon mode and aims his weapon towards the thrusters and fires and hits it, and the space shuttle starts to slow down. In fact, it stops spinning altogether. So she says, Kurt, take Peter and go. And so Raven now says, Storm, seal those cracks. For those that don't know, Storm is a witch, and she's a storm goddess. Okay? So she breathes deeply, her eyes look like she's possessed, and she creates ice on the shuttle's exterior, sealing up the open holes there. And so Nightcrawler and Quicksilver there went into the craft to get these guys out. And he's actually moving pretty fast right here, so I can't really show you the effects. And so by the time he gets to the front, he's like, oh, snap. he sees that the anomaly out there is reaching towards the plane now, or the space shuttle, sorry. And so anyway, he grabs everybody, at least so he thinks, and the Nightcrawler takes them back to the X-Jet. And then she says to strap in, we're headed home. And an astronaut in the back says, wait, our commander, he's not here. He was in the airlock working on the thruster. And so the heat signature is rising fast. So they still think this is a solar flare. And Storm says, I can't hold it any longer. And so we got to get out of here. I said, strap in. And Professor X, way from down on the earth, intervenes and says, no, Raven, no, we're not leaving anyone behind. And says, I'm not putting the team in more danger. He says, what about their team, right? And she says, Jean, hold the shuttle together. Can't you, Jean? And Professor X now does an emotional appeal. You know you can do anything you set your mind to. I can hold the ship together, but not from here. I need to get inside. The heat spiking. As somebody else says, the heat spiking. I think it's Hank. I need to, it's Hank saying that, right? We've got less than a minute till those flares hit. She said she could do it. That's boyfriend bigging her up there. And she said, we got 30 seconds. Count it down, go. And so Quicksilver there wraps up Demon Man in the foil there so he can have a helmet on his head. There we go. All right. So the countdown starts with 30 seconds. And so he reaches over to grab Jean and whisk her away onto the ship. And so now the anomaly here is reaching towards everybody, really. And so the countdown is at 20 seconds now. They grab the other guy that was left there, and he goes back. And now the timer's down to 1. The anomaly reaches to the shuttle where Jean is the only one left on board, and it engulfs her, right? And pretty much, is possessing her. And says, Scott says, where's Jean, Kurt, which is the demon guy? Where is she? And he says, I'm sorry. And he couldn't reach her. And now they're watching as the energy, whatever that thing is, surround the ship. And Hank here says, brace for impact. So what was happening, I didn't actually catch all of this, it's just too much. The anomaly, I'm just calling it that for now, was going towards the X-Jet as well. Okay, right. It's looking for a host, pretty much. And Jean sees it and kind of pushes it, kind of attracts it to her. And so it comes towards her and starts possessing her more, engulfing her, and all of this whatever cosmic energy. And totally induced traps, and she's just taking it in, screaming. At the same time she's doing that, Professor X, because he's a psychic, whatever, is feeling the disturbance in the force, right? And so by the time the anomaly's finished, the whole space shuttle is destroyed, explodes, boom, right? And Scott sees, of course, he's in panic now because that's his girlfriend. And right there you see sort of a shape, but it's not the Phoenix yet, right? And so it keeps engulfing her and surrounds her. And finally, it has totally possessed her body. And she's just floating out in space now. And then Nightcrawler goes out there to save her and bring her back to the ship. And so Scott now is checking on her. and she kind of wakes up a little bit. And notice her eyes are glowing because the Phoenix Force is within her. She doesn't know this is happening, but they're trying to give us a cue. And so she says, "Is everybody okay?" And Scott says, "Yeah, we're okay." And so let's go home. Anything you want to say about that before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, you can see still, like you said, we talked about the feminism going through this movie. Like Scott sitting there in the ship, he was helpless to do anything. And then even, the characterization of Professor X here is, he's helpless, there on Earth. And then also he's like, he makes misstep after misstep in this movie. So,
Yeah.
it's once again just setting up, the females are the heroes in this movie, as Marvel is taken forth, through the years, and looks like they may be getting away from that a little bit, but
well, in context, at around this time when this movie came out is when the
yes,
whole woke thing started to
right,
rise. Okay, so we didn't expect Fox to do this.
right,
Everybody started to do it,
yep.
and so here we are. So let's move on. All right, so they return to Earth. Let me bring this screen up for you guys.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't, as far as the chronological aspect of where this movie is, I mean, you can see that's it's a stepping off place. It's where the wokeness started. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so they get back, and there's a lot of fanfare, and cheering, whistling. The kids are there. There are a couple kids there with X-Men toys in their hand and stuff like that. So kind of like a hero worship thing. And
And once again, that speaks to maybe this being a separate timeline. Is when Days of Future Past. They were being hunted, and now they're being exalted as heroes. So once again, looks like the timeline has shifted.
right. Yes. Because Wolverine is not in this movie, and that's the problem with the movie, actually.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's not in the movie, so everybody know Wolverine is a through line.
Yeah. How do you have an X-Men movie without Wolverine?
Yeah. So they're here at the airport. They just stepped out of the jet, I believe, and back at the school now. Same thing. People are cheering and whistling and stuff. Glad they made it back home safe and everything. Boom, boom, boom. Right. And so then Professor X is saying the X-Men have today done an incredibly brave thing. They've they've once again proved to humanity exactly why they need us. So, guys, if you don't know about Human 2.0, I've done many shows and I mentioned Human 2.0. Remember, these are not humans. None of these people here are humans. They just look like us. Okay? And that's the way it'll be in the future if God allows Human 2.0 to become a thing. And if you don't know, if this is all weird to you and I sound crazy, look up Human 2.0, go to 2045.com, and you will see evidence beyond your mind that your mind can handle at this point, right? And so he says, people like yourselves, the president sends his regards, as well as his heartfelt gratitude. And as for me, I've never been prouder. Enjoy yourselves. You certainly deserve it. In fact, you all do. No more class, the end of the day. All right? So everybody kind of cheers. And he says, you gave us quite a scare up there. How are you doing? He's talking to Jean. She says, she's stammering, I feel fine. Right? And notice there's something with this woman here. She acts as if she has the mind of a child.
Yeah.
Okay? Very subdued and mentally. And you'll see it. You see it throughout. So anyway, so Hank, he says, Hank. And Hank says, yeah. He said, would you like to look at Jean? Standard medical for anyone injured in the field. And then we get this look. Right? And he says, Raven says, the president was almost sending his condolences. She should be dead. Well, aren't you the one that went on the mission with her? That said it was okay to fly a ship that wasn't prepared for outer space? I mean, you're to blame too. Anyway, so he says, thankfully she's not. And so now they go into his office and she closed the door. And she says, you put us in danger, Charles. You put those kids in danger. Now, to understand their relationship, she came into his parents' mansion when he was a child. And he befriended her, fed her, and silently raised her in a sense. Not raised her, but they're really good friends. And so this is why she can even talk to him like this. Okay? So he says, they're not kids anymore, Raven. And I care about their safety just as much as you do. She says, are you sure about that? Because we're taking bigger and bigger risks. And for what? Please tell me it's not your ego. So you gotta step on the man's ego, huh?
Yeah.
So anyway, he says, she says, being on the cover of magazines, getting a medal from the president, you like it, don't you? And he says, as opposed to being hunted and despised, remember, they're not humans. This is why they're hunted and despised, because they're freaky. Okay? And, well, actually I do. It's all just a means to an end, Raven. What end is that? And he says, keeping us safe. You should understand better than anyone. Why? Because when she showed up in his mansion, she was blue. All of what you're seeing right now is a mask. It's an illusion. She's blue. And you'll see that later as the movie goes on. For those that don't know. Okay? And so that's where we're only ever one bad day away from them starting to see us as the enemy again. So what? We wear matching costumes. All right, let me say it another way. So what? We wear matching costumes and smile in pictures to make everyone feel safe. That is a small price to pay for keeping the peace, right? Just imagine you see a guy come up walking down your street with antlers on. You'd be scared too, right? So anyway, by risking our people to save theirs, and he says, yes. So there's a clear distinction. It's nothing new. This movie's nothing new. It's always been a clear distinction throughout the X-Men comics that we have the new race of humans, which we call mutants, that came from some evolutionary movement in nature, supposedly, right? Which is a total lie. So anyway, the germ from the older gods germinated in people and made mutants. That's the premise of the X-Men. Okay, so then she says, "Here comes the feminist stuff. It's funny. I can't actually remember the last time you were the one risking something. And by the way, the women are always saving the men around here." Right? Didn't Hank help out? Didn't Demon Catholic Man help out? Didn't what's his name? Quicksilver help out?
Yeah.
Scott help out? I mean, the people that write this stuff are retarded because it makes no sense, right? So anyway,
exactly. You would think they had an agenda or something, right?
Right? I know, right? So, all right. So, anything else about this scene you want to cover?
No, it's like you said, it's hilarious. The programming, just right there slapping you in the face.
Right. So, all right, where are we now? All right. So, in this next scene now, they're doing the medical exam on Jean Grey. So he says, what can't be right? Oh, wait, he says something's not right. I didn't get that screenshot. So he says, what can't be right? And he says, did you just read my mind without permission? And she says, sorry, I didn't mean to, but what can't be right? Now, see, these people are always busting into people's privacy and doing what psychics do, if they even have that power. But I'm just saying, it's a demonic thing, and he should. Anyone this happens to, even if it's Professor X doing it, they should all be angry about it.
Yeah.
But anyway, they just brush it off.
Actually, there's rules governing them.
Yeah, right. Whatever happened up there made you stronger. So the funny thing about this movie is everyone knows something's going on, but they can't figure it out. But in the other tellings, they could kind of know, they kind of figure out there's an entity somewhere. But so this movie is very dumb. But anyway, let me get off the soapbox. All right. So it made her stronger.
Well, it's almost like it's underlying everything there within her, and yet, like you said, the people are just blissfully unaware of what's going on. It almost, like I said, it seems to me almost more like a demonic force, the way it's portrayed in this.
And they're all oblivious. How?
Yes.
Anyway, so I've never seen a power reading like this. You're literally, you're off the charts. Okay, I understand it's the was the 90s and we didn't have technology like that, but they had the technology, don't they? Right? They have technology superior to the American Pentagon or military force. Their technology superior. Look at the jet they're flying, right? And they're still flying UEs, okay, and in the military. So anyway, it's off the charts. And she says, so what does that mean? We'll have to build a better machine. All right, that's fine. I'll roll with that. So now she's with her boyfriend, Scott. And by the way, they changed. Wasn't Scott the original leader of the X-Men?
Yes.
And they changed it up to make it.
Yep. The Raven. Yeah. Once again, the female.
Yeah. So, so he's asking if off the charts. Basically, she's telling him the story that Hank said. Oh, that she just had with Hank, the conversation. So anyway, and Scott is saying he did. He pretty much said it's off the charts and said, you're a little intimidated by me. Starts flirting with him or whatever. And he says constantly, and he doesn't really mean that, but so they start a little kissy and whatever. And he says, are you sure you're okay? And she says, I'm better than okay. God, I feel great. I do. Right. So again, one of the things with real life accounts like these, people, they go through the trauma, and sometimes, not all the time, sometimes they'll feel an exertion of power, but it's not theirs. Okay. So,
and I was going to mention another thing strange about these movies to me is that fact, like you've mentioned, Cyclops, the original leader, but in the comics, when Cyclops resigns and walks away, Storm becomes the leader. Yes. And nowhere in these movies she's always seems to be in the backstory. I don't, for them wanting to portray the feminism, they don't use the ones that the comics use. I always thought that was strange.
Yeah, the only one I remember, I might be wrong, but the only one that I remember she was any sort of leader was Days of Future Past.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So, she says, I don't know. I feel like everything is just turned up, right? And he says, yeah. But she says, no, it's just, and he says, just what? Or is it he saying it? No, he's saying, no, it's just, and she says, just what? And I thought I lost you today. And she says, I know. But I came back to you. I'll always come back to you. This is another through line in the movie as well.
Right.
And so we go from there now to a mysterious lake. This doesn't necessarily have anything. This body of water has nothing to do with the Phoenix. So we're going to some dinner party, and we hear barking outside. And this lady, I believe her name is Elizabeth or something. Anyway, the barking continues. The dog is named Luna.
And Luna, wasn't that Quicksilver and the lady from the Inhumans, Crystal. I think that was their daughter's name. I don't know if that was a throw into tie into that or not.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
There's a lot of symbolism in here, but
Mhm.
I couldn't chronicle all of it because it's
Right.
kind of all over the place. But there's one you'll see later. I'll actually bring that one up. So anyway, I think it's the husband saying it's probably the squirrels, right?
Right.
And the lady said, "I'm just going to check on her. I'll be right back." Right. So this guy lets his woman go outside where the dog's barking irrationally to check on what's wrong. What is wrong with people, right? So then she's outside now, and Luna keeps barking.
That's that
And
feminism, Chris, going all the way through it.
and so here we have a woman. Okay, she's panting, but here comes this entity. I'm not sure if the audience can clearly see that, so let me make it bigger. There it is. This is supposed to be an alien, and we'll discuss this later. But I'll just say right now, this is a demonic force. Okay, so it's supposed to be a known entity from the comic books.
The bar,
Right.
yeah. And a note, they on the first writing of this, apparently they wanted to use the scrolls,
Mhm.
and I guess there was some contention there, with Marvel wanting to use them in the Captain Marvel movies.
Mhm.
So they went back to the comics and used the name of the Dabari, which I don't believe the Dabari in the comics were shapeshifters. So it's like they had the power of the scrolls but used the name of Dabari. So
Yeah. Okay. So we got a lot of ground to cover. So now let's speed up just a little bit
okay,
until we get to the more important parts. So the dog is Luna yelps because Luna's dead now. Okay, and so this is okay. I call these people body snatchers because that's not the woman walking back. Okay, and her name is Margaret. So you see it there. Her, let me big it up for people there. She is shape shifting. Okay, so this is not the woman. She's dead. All right. So she walks in, clothes and all, and she's looking strange. And her husband says, "Margaret," and he walks over to her, looking strange, and he's like, "What?" And then she sticks her hand into his stomach, and he groans and dies. And then people start screaming because obviously they're traumatized now. So we go from there to they're having a party outside, and I didn't take all the screenshots of this. It's kind of almost irrelevant. And so inside
yeah, they
now,
just have some cameos there. I mean, they have Dazzler and some
right?
other
Yeah,
characters they throw in.
yeah. And if we mention them, people would know anyway, except for people that actually know the comics. So so here this is Raven talking. It wasn't so long ago we were throwing parties like this, and now we're the only ones left. What she's referring to, they're the only ones left of the first class. The 2 movies ago, okay,
Right.
that's where she's referencing because they have a ton of young kids around them now, and so anyway, this is setting up the connection between these two for an event later on in the movie. And so she says maybe it's time for us to move on. And he says, "What do you basically mean move where?" And she says, "I don't know. It's just Charles. Whatever's going on between you two, it will be over. It will blow over." She says, "No, it won't. I love him, but he's different. Everything is it's different now." Now, to be fair to her, even though she's a little crazy feminist, um, she has good points because you're going to see the through line of deception everywhere as you keep going. But as a casual watcher, you're not really going to, you might side with her, you might side with Professor X. Anyway, so he says, we changed the whole world so we could live in it. These non-humans, right? Yeah, but maybe that's what we should go do. Basically, start their own little movement. Yeah, but this is our life. This is what we wanted. Not like this, Raven. It's not our life, Hank. It's his. What do you think the X in X-Men stands for? What do you got to say about that, Kevin?
Uh, yeah, well, I said once again, just setting him up, as I want to, is making missteps, and you see a lot of this bleeding through. I don't know, for some reason this makes me think of the last of the Jurassic Park movies. Where the dinosaurs are all in the last two. They're running around amongst people. You have two things that you have the dinosaurs that shouldn't be there. Out of place, and it's fair where they're talking here. It's like they're out. They've come out, so to speak, and now they're out in the world amongst the other people where they say they actually don't belong, and Professor X has sort of been in charge of that outing. So, and I guess thinking maybe they will become targets later on. So
Right, and that's the natural outcome.
right,
Right.
exactly.
So as we move, Charles is now getting some accolades and appreciation from the President of the United States. Charles and his X-Men are where we turn when facing our worst fears. So there's something I always say in a lot of my breakdowns or some of the other things I talk about is that none of these movies will ever steer you anywhere close to Jesus, anywhere
No,
close to God, ever. So here it's steering you towards a non-human faction that can save the planet. I don't care if it's the Avengers or the Justice League, or it's always to these non-humans. Okay, and that's a pattern you want to look for when you're checking out these movies. And he says, "Thank you, Mr. President. Um, all
yeah,
I
the heroes are always augmented in some form or fashion, whether it be through birth, some of these mutants through birth, or something after that happened later on. They're always, like I said, augmented, and like you said, it's setting us up for human 2.0.
right, yes." And it says, Professor X is talking now, and he says, all I've really done is create a world in which children can find peace and pride. That word,
Hmm.
in being different. Now, the undertone here is also modern politics. Okay, the alphabet people, all that stuff. It's all encompassed in here. They're just not saying it like they would say it a few years later. Okay.
Right.
So anyway, as we move now, I know that some of you choose to call us superheroes. I must confess I don't really know what that word means. Now that's just the writers trying to put something in that's supposed to be quirky, but it's not. So anyway, but it is a dang sight better than what you used to call us, right? I don't know exactly what that means. I can't remember. It's in one of the movies. So anyway, now we go back to the park where they were having the movie. I'm sorry, the party, and she says, "Come on, Scott," and she's kind of trying to drag him away from the rest of the people. So anyway, did you hear what the kids are calling you? This is Scott speaking, and do I want to know? And he says, "Yeah, Phoenix." So this is where they coin her name, or he coins her name, for the audience. It's cool, right? A bird that rises from the dead. And there's more to that meaning, but they're not going to tell the audience. So anyway, she starts to feel a certain way, and he asks, "Are you okay? Hey, maybe we should take a break." And now she starts hearing voices, whispers, right? And that's usually demonic possession, okay, or crazy, right? And she's saying, "Stop." And she hears indistinct whispering, and the every time you see her eye glow like that, or the little cracks on her face with the light in there, that's her manifesting the demon. Okay, or what you want to call it, the Phoenix Force. They found me. um and so she keeps hearing the whisper, and she's saying, "Wait, wait," and she starts seeing flashbacks of things. She's like, "No, stop, stop, stop." And then she's picked up on the infrared monitor, Right now she's green, but she's getting hotter because you see everybody else around her is more a blue or green. And now she's red. Okay. So from there, Scott is saying, Jean, please. And she starts groaning. Oops. And she keeps saying, stop. Remember, back to Firestarter. Firestarter would always say, back off, back off. So, it's, again, similar to that. And then she starts to have a fit here. And the cracks start coming in her and on her face and whatever. And everyone starts screaming because now she's manifesting this outwardly occult demonic power. And it pushes everybody back. The whole environment is changed, and now she's out because what happens with some of these people when this stuff manifests, they're also drained of their energy, right? And especially if they disperse energy, right? So next scene. All right. So Charles now feels another disturbance in the force, right? And he says, I'm terribly sorry, everyone, but I'm going to have to leave. And so we see her now in the second. I'm not sure if you saw it earlier, the audience. She was in a cross position.
Yeah.
This is the second time she's in a cross position. And trust me, it makes sense later on in the movie because this is a typology of an antichrist, but she's a female. All right. Now, he said, what is it? What do you see? So he's trying to see into her mind again. He's always violating somebody's mind. So anyway, and he says, nothing. Her mutation has grown too powerful. For the first time, I can't penetrate her mind. A raven says, so that's what we're doing down here? He tells Hank, he says, Hank built Cerebro to amplify my power, right? I think that's the only way I'm going to get inside her head now. So he's just like bogarting it, like, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to use some tech to get in that head. I don't care what you think. I'm going to do that, right? And so once he puts on a helmet, the things back, the light back there that looks like ambers, those are not ambers. For those that don't know, those are souls of mutants.
Yeah.
Right. And so the camera turns and we see a lot more of them. But he cannot find Jean, so he says, Hank, could you turn it up, please? And then he says, there she is. And so now we're going to travel into the mind of a SRA victim. And now they're in her mind. And they start looking at different memories. And this is a happy memory. Is it supposed to look like this? She asked. And he says the mind of a psychic is a fragile thing. He doesn't really answer the question. Right. He doesn't really answer the question, but the mind of a psychic is a fragile thing. It takes only the slightest tap to tip it to the wrong direction. I had to make adjustments to her mind when she was young, right? So what he's explaining here, he violated her mind. Scaffolding. Well, rather to keep out all the trauma. I mean, on the surface, it sounds good, but you entered somebody's mind, right, and violated them, right? And trauma actually benefits some of our growth. Not the worst traumas. I'm not going there. I'm just saying some trauma benefits our growth as people. Anyway,
this to me, this seems like this is the strangest scene of the movie right here, and really, I mean, it's you could go in so many directions from here. The rise of the psychedelic drug use in our day. It all speaks to this. What they're doing right here, where people even will speak of a mind meld. Mm-hmm. Those things are real, and like I said, I think what we're looking at is It's something probably they've got technology to do. I would dare to say, but because I mean, with all the experimentation on the drugs now and with everything, these things are possible. I will say that.
Oh yeah, they even have AI technology that could inject um, memories, dreams into your head. I mean, obviously the
Hmm.
public doesn't have it right now, but it's been announced. Anyone can look that up. I ain't crazy. So,
Yeah.
what did you do to her, Charles? So Raven is more empathetic here, and he says, "I saved her. Remember, I told you about his Messiah complex. Okay. Um, I think that whatever happened in space did something to her. This is the only person with a clue.
Right.
Finally, right? Um, so in the process, those walls that I erected are being torn down. Now we see Jean on the bed, and let me see what is going on here. She's saying quiet. I think it's her saying quiet. And we see a memory, and one of them asks, "What is that?" And he says, "That is what I was trying to save her from." Um, and you hear "table for one," my usual.
Yeah.
I won't reveal it yet. It's coming. It's whatever. Um, and she says, "What's that voice?" And whispering, "No." And Raven says, "Charles," and he sighs because he doesn't want to tell him the truth.
Right.
And now he says she's waking up. And now she's breathing heavily. And guess who's speaking to her from her mind? Charles
Yeah.
Xavier. Gene. Gene, don't be afraid. It's only me. I'd be afraid. You can see all my memories. You can see my private thoughts. Get out of here. Right? So
And
he says,
it's like, and then once again, it's like they're in compartments, which
yeah,
once again
yeah,
speaks to the trauma.
yeah, splits and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he says, I want you to remain calm. And I'd like you to focus on my voice. This focus on my voice thing, you're going to hear it again and again. It's a hypnotism, a way to hypnotize people to get them. It's kind of like emptying your mind, but no, you just focus on one thing. You focus on that thing, and then things start to fade away. So focus on my voice. And she says, "Get out of my head." And he says, "Just stay calm, Gene. She's fighting me. I need you to turn it up." He's talking to Hank, and then she starts groaning. And she said, "I heard my father. He's alive. You're just," and he says, "You're just hearing things." See, he constantly lies, right? Um, and Gene, your mind, it needs to rest. And he's not really explain. This is not really. The writers are idiots. They're not really explaining what he's saying. We don't need a ton of dialogue, but give us some clues, right? And so anyway, it needs to rest. And says, "You're lying to me. I can sense it." And remember, those in the audience, she's also a psychic too. So she has these demonic abilities as well. So he says,
An
"Turn."
empath, I think we mentioned that earlier.
A what?
An empath is as far as you can feel the others.
Yeah. So he says, "Turn it up." Basically what he wants to do is for Hank to turn up Cerebro so much that he will have control over mind. Professor X. So he says, "No, it's too much already. Don't do it, Hank." That's Raven talking. And he says, "Hank," and Hank says, "No, I won't do it." And so Charles grunts, and I think it's her that's whimpering. And you see her manifesting the force, the phoenix right there.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, for God's sakes, Charles, she's trying to tell him to stop. And she says, "Get out of my head." And so now he's passed out, just like the mother in the beginning of the movie. Okay. Anything else you want to say about that?
No, like I said, that's to me that is one of the key scenes in the movie. as far as the plot line goes. And I mean, probably not the most exciting one. I mean, that's going to be the one with the train coming up, but that
Right.
everyone looks to. But like I
Yeah.
said, this is to me one of the most key scenes in the whole movie.
Yeah. And so boyfriend comes in now. Scott, are you okay? Says, what happened? We were outside, and then, oh, that's another key thing with SRI victims and others, memory loss. So he said you had an accident, you blacked out. Did I? Did I do that? And he says it's fine. No, it's not fine. It was an accident. And she starts sobbing. I don't know what's happening to me. You're gonna hear this over and over again. Remember, she has a mind of a child. Okay. I can't control it. I can't stay here, Scott. What are you talking about? Well, where are you going? I need to see my father. Your father, he's alive. I can hear him. He died in the crash, remember? Sorry, Scott. I need to go. She says, hang on, God, please. She says, God, please let me go. I can't control it when it comes. I can't stop it. Okay, I could hurt you again. He says, I'll take that chance, naively. And she says, I know, but I won't. And then she knocks him out. And so moving on from there, he's Professor X says now, and it's all coming out at once. Something's happening to her, Raven. She's changing. And she says, into what? And he says, I don't know. Basically, what he's saying is she's evolving into something greater than we've ever seen before, blah, blah, blah. Next form of humanity. But he just can't comprehend that none of them have a clue except for Raven. Like, seriously? So anyway, Charles, you can track her with your mind. He sighs and says, not anymore. She's grown too powerful, even for me. Now, that's key because Charles Xavier, I'm not sure if he's at his full potential now, but he's like, what is it called? Class 5 mutant or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah, so he's very powerful. And so the Phoenix is sort of like Scarlet Witch. They've both gone through trauma. They both use chaos power and other things. And so they're pretty much the same kind of entity.
The divine feminine.
The divine feminine, yes. And so she said she was going to see her father. And he says, that doesn't make any sense, right? And he doesn't answer. He just says, prepare the jet. We're going to bring her home. So if he was so altruistic and truthful with his team, he would say something.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is part of the whole feminist line or whatever, but we usually don't see Professor X acting so crazy. A little bit in X-Men 3. It's the same parallel, but
right.
But this is worse, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, Charles, you're in no condition. He sighs again. I have to stop this. She's going to find nothing good there, right? So still not alerting them to what's really going on. So anyway, now we jump to the reveal of the intruders from outer space. And so this is all that's left of the Dabari Empire. I think she's asking the person driving. And her name is Vuk. And so they greet her. And by the way, this villain, it's like the weirdest villain I've ever seen. Is they do nothing. Okay.
And I think as far as the original, I think she originally in 10 of the movies, she was supposed to be Emma Frost, and then when on the rewrite and compressing 2 movies together, that's what you come up with. So.
Yeah, Emma Satan, Emma female Satan.
Right.
Have you learned their language? And Vuk says with ease. What have you learned? And this guy's annoying too. The power is being contained inside one of them. Right now, this guy first showed up when Professor X was leaving the dinner party. But how would he know that the being is being hidden in one of them? No one explains that. He just
Right.
shows up, and now he's explaining that it's in one of them. How would he know that? Right? Because no one has a clue what's going on, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So anyway, this primitive species, she's stronger. Now, a lot of alien movies like to call us primitive and all this stuff, but we are uh, the center of God's creation, and these fallen angels could say what they want. So, and now he declares that she's a mutant. She has no idea what's happening to her. And how do they know it's to her? How do they
Yep.
know that? Oh, okay. I think I know how. Near the end of the movie, she explains that they were following the supposed solar flare.
Oh yeah, that's probably him.
But still, if they were all there, why didn't he know?
Right.
This is dumb writing.
Exactly. Yeah, like I said, this thing was just mashed together, so it's kind of hard to follow in places.
So she says, now I can use that. I'm not sure if this person was even was a good casting for this character, but whatever. It doesn't
Like I said,
matter.
I think originally it was Emma Frost when it was two movies and they mashed it together. So once I found out there was supposed to be two movies, it explained a lot of what's going on to me.
Yeah. So she says, and we can control that power. All right. So we have motive, right? We can resurrect our race, right? And okay, I'll explain that later. Anyway, so and begin again. Here, um, where is she? And no answer. So now that Jean has gone off by herself, she ends up in an old neighborhood, and she knocks on the door, and the bell rings, and a man comes out, and he's breathing with breath trembles, and he says, Jean. And we see the X-Men hurry into her location, and Raven says, how do you know where she's going, Charles? If you can't track her, how do you know where she is? You know how? What did you do? I protected her from the truth. And she says, there's another word for that. Yeah, it's called a liar. Right? He told me, now she's speaking to, obviously, now her father. He told me you were dead. I never thought I'd be back here. It's the same. Can I get you something to drink or to eat? He asks, and she says, no, I'm good. And I kind of skipped a couple of things here. It's so good to see you. And he says, I'll get you water, okay? And so she starts to get the pictures on the wall, and then she starts to hear voices again, and she sees all the photos on the wall, but pretty much none of them are me, because she doesn't realize the trauma she caused in her parents' life. And so he looks at her strange, like, how do you not know, right? And you never looked for me. Jean, why didn't you look for me? Maybe you should sit down. No, I don't want to sit down. Why didn't you come looking for me? And don't try to lie. I can read your mind. See, they always go into somebody's mind. John says, I can't handle her. Oh, this isn't coming out of his mind. I can't handle her. And I don't even know what she is. And he says, Professor X here is, I do. This is the secret. This is the big secret. Okay. They had a meeting before he picked her up. And then you'll take her. And then she says, you didn't even say goodbye. And I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to your mother, basically giving her some snark there. And I was 8 years old, and then glass shatters. How could you do that to me? And he basically says, you want to come in, basically in his mind, to see the real deal? Come all the way in. Don't forget what you did. And so she starts to see a bunch of flashbacks and stuff. I didn't put everything in here. And she starts to sob, and here comes the trauma again. And she says, no. And I just took this one just to kind of illustrate to you what she's seeing. The mother's dead, the father's hurting, but she didn't know he was, obviously we've been through this. She didn't know he was alive. And so John says, I'm sorry, Jean, but my whole world died that day. And you went with it. And so that brings her to more tears and anger. And there's rattling now. And he says, Jean, don't, please. And everything's rattling. And he says, stop that. Stop it. And she says, it's not me. It's them. Basically, the X-Jet has arrived. But she also knocks her dad out. So as we move, right, the engines are wearing, the jet lands, the X-Men team comes out, and I cut out a lot of the battle scenes, but I put a little bit in there so I can illustrate a little
Yeah,
bit.
and this was more, I guess you could say this is more on the line of the comic books with this battle scene. A lot of the flashbacks sort of like what the comics would.
Yeah. So she walks out to meet them, and she said, you shouldn't have come here. Why is that? I think this is Professor X talking. Why is that? We've only come to bring you home, Jean. I don't have a home. You made sure of that. Look, your father couldn't handle you. And so they start moving towards her, and we took you in. You told me my father was dead, and you used me for my powers. No, that's just not true. That's not what happened. Now he's not explaining. The writers. Yeah. Anyway, Jean, we can help you. I can help you, but you have to listen to me. No, I don't. And now he's trying to get an emotional appeal from the boyfriend. So he says, Scott, basically tell him to go talk to her. She says, he lied to me, Scott, about everything. He says, we'll figure everything out together. Just come back to me. Remember, you said you would always come back to me. Come back to me. And then sirens start wailing. Two cop cars come around the corner, and he's like, Jean, because he knows what she's about to do.
Yeah.
And so now she gets a little annoyed and says, stay away from me, stay away from me, stay away from me. And pretty much crushes the car like the two cars in the front like tin cans. Charles says, stop her quickly. And someone else says, Charles, wait. And now she loves like flying off into the sky. So she starts flying off. And Demon Catholic Man, what's his name again?
Nightcrawler.
Nightcrawler goes to teleport her. And there's this whole scene where they flew into the house. I cut most of it out, and he's like, "Please," because he's afraid of her. And she pretty much takes the interior of the house and crushes it on him. He's not dead though. And so Scott is trying to stop Storm from using her lightning ability, while Mystique, Raven, is running towards her. And right here, the scene slows down because Quicksilver is about to use his power. And so here, Hank is trying to use this gun that would neutralize her, but he's frozen too. And so we see Quicksilver here in the middle, start to run on the because the house had an explosion and all the planks from the house are in the sky. This is the whole frozen scene. Only he can move, and Jean Grey. And so he runs up, and she moves the planks from under his feet, and he's surprised, and he falls. And then Storm tries to hit her too, and she evades that and throws her around a little bit. And so anyway, this is the important part of the scene here. Raven is like, Jean, stop. I've got Hank is saying, I got the shot, I'm taking it. No, you're not, says Professor X. And he freezes him too, right?
Yeah.
So with his little psychic abilities, he's able to freeze the environment, people in the environment, like even a whole airport if you wanted to. That's how powerful he is. So he said, I'm sorry, Hank. I want Raven to have a chance. And then he starts using his power some more on the cops. These cops came out the car, but right here they're not moving. Okay. And so now Jean is in the sky, and I told you to stay away. And she says that's never gonna happen. It says, please stop. She flew down and says, please stop. And says, she says, now, not until I know you're going to be okay. And she said, here it goes again. Like I said, the mind of a child, something's happening to me. And she says, so come home. Let me take care of you. And she says, no, you can't. You can't. You don't. You don't know what it's like. And she says, tell me. It says, when it comes, people get hurt. She said, I'm not afraid of you, Jean. Focus on my voice. Here it goes again. Trying to hypnotize her. We're going to get through this together. And she's being honest here. I'm not giving up on you, Jean. This is what family does. We take care of each other. You're my family, Jean, no matter what. And she says, stop, because clearly she's manifesting and she's getting annoyed. And then, boom, her power throws Raven and into the rubble of the house close to them, and she's hurt and shocked. Professor X gasps. And here we have Jean, sorry for what just happened. She walks up to her. I cut out a lot of this stuff because it's too much. But we see her, she's impaled. Yep. And by this moment, I believe she has flown off already. Maybe not. Hank runs up to her because they're in love and all that stuff. And she says she can't catch her breath. Hank whispers, no. She says, I love you. And he says, what? And there's another scene where he says, I love you. But she's dead. All right. So now he cries and blah, blah, blah. And please. Oh. And so. And
this scene was so predictable. I mean, it's like you knew what was going to happen.
Right. Right.
10 minutes in advance.
Right. Yeah. It's like, yeah. So from here now, we're more than halfway through, guys. We're getting there. So Jean is in a alleyway sobbing. Like I said, it's like the mind of a child. And she's saying to herself, I don't know what's happening to me. And she has the blood of the woman on her shirt. And she's like, why? Why did I do that? And then she starts manifesting again. And then we go back to the house where the father is and the destruction of the house. And these two come out of the car. This is the two alien people and masquerading like they're FBI. And go to see the father. And he says, who are you supposed to be? He says, we're the ones who are going to help you, Mr. Gray. I didn't know she was going to come back. That's what he's saying to them. And I'm sorry for all of this. She says, it's okay. We just want to get an accurate picture of who Jean is, right? How did they know how to find him?
Yeah.
What? How do they even? Oh, okay. I think it makes sense. Because she just did this thing to the neighborhood. So now it's on the
okay. That's true.
Okay, they didn't botch it. Okay. So
I mean, there's one part coming up where she absorbed some of her power. I think she got some of the knowledge, but at this point, she didn't have that. So.
Right. So tell us about when you gave her to the mutant, right? And how do they know that? I don't know. Right? And so he looks at them suspiciously and he says, maybe it might be better if I talk to a lawyer. And she said, I'm sorry, Mr. Gray, but I need to know everything about her now. And she looks at the other dude and says, this is truly an unfortunate development. And he says, why is that? And he says, because it's so much easier to understand your language when you're not screaming, right?
Mhm.
And I suppose she puts her hand inside of him, but she's supposed to be extracting information. So I don't know how this works, and they never explain it. So my guess is as good as anybody else. Because when she touched the first guy, he just died.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't know if they're just torturing him for information or they actually kill him and extract some of his memories. It's just not clear here.
Right. And so he screams, and that's the end of that scene. So now we get to closer to the end of the movie. Well, a little bit past the middle, and this is the compound where some mutants are placed to live. And so anyway, she ends up there, right? And they're living, they're farming and all this stuff. And a guy asks who she is and what are you doing here? There's a little banter that I left out. And anyway, Magneto now shows up for the first time in the movie, and flies towards her, and he tells him to leave her and asks, "Why are you here?" And later on, "Why are you hurt?" She says, "No, you'll have to forgive them." Um, the people outside, they're not accustomed to uninvited guests. And he asks, "Whose blood is that?" And this is important to move the plot forward.
Right.
And she says, "What?" She said, "On your shirt." "Look, I'm not Charles. I'm not. I can't read your mind. You hurt people. It's been a while, but." And she says, "But you did." He says, "Yes. What did you come here to ask me?" She says, "How did you stop?" He says, "I lived with vengeance my whole life. Ever since I was a child, I lost everyone I ever loved. So I hurt people. Yes, killed people. Killed whatever I thought would make the pain go away. It didn't. No matter how many souls I sent under. So I stopped." And so basically, what we're doing here is this is a juxtaposition between two people filled with trauma that have occult powers. He controls magnetism, she controls the elements. Okay? It's going to come clear to you in a second. She said, I don't know how to stop. I don't know what's happening to me. When I lose control, things happen, bad things, to people I love. And he says, "Whose blood is that? Isn't that why you came here? What do you think I can do for you?" She says, "I don't know." "Yes, you do. Whose blood is that?" "I don't want to talk about it." And he says, "Did you hurt somebody or hurt someone?" She says, "Please, so here she's back into emotional state again. He says, "Answer the question, Gene." And she says, "Stop, Eric. You're making me angry." Like the Hulk, right?
Yeah.
And he says, "Good. I want you to be angry. So show me what happens, Gene." And she says, "I don't want to hurt you." So he's kind of like an abuser at the same time.
Right.
He's just pushing her buttons left and right. And so what happens when you get angry? Show me. And then the lady comes in, says, "We got military about to come in." So what I didn't show here is that when he walked out, her face started to get the cracks again. So she was definitely manifesting. And so he tells her to stay there. And so they go outside. There's two birds, two helicopters, pretty much. Tell everyone to stay calm but ready. Two helicopters come. They're filled with men with guns and da da da. And they land. He says, "Captain." No, sorry. The captain says, "All right, that's enough. That's far enough," because they were walking up to them. And so the engine powers go down. It stops they stop rotating because that's what Magneto did. And so he says, Magneto says, "We have a legit right to be here, or a legal right. This land was given to us by the U.S. government. We have no intention of taking it back," says the captain there. "We're not here for you. we're looking for one of the X-Men, Jean Grey. And you can hear it outside. He says, I haven't seen her in a long time. So the captain says, then you won't mind if we take a look around. And he says, I know who you are. And he says, I don't want to fight. And he says with an aggressive attitude, no, you don't. Then he says, step aside. We have the same rights as you and your family. And like I said, we're not here for you. We're here for a girl who gave up those rights when she attacked a squad of police officers. They have families too. Guess who didn't hear about that? We don't get the news out here, Captain.
Right.
And so now the helicopter blades start spooling up again because Magneto let go of the controls, right? And so, what's happening here? He says, stop that. He says, stop that right now. But now Magneto is not doing anything. He says, not me. And then Jean Grey is like, it's me. And so she flies down, and Eric says, Jean, and the guns cock towards her, and she starts to mess with one of the helicopters in the back, and she starts to turn it over this scene don't make sense, but whatever. So anyway, it turns over, and the blades start ripping through the ground, and one flies towards Eric. This was so stupid, but anyway. So now they're going to have a joust here of sorts where she's going to try to get rid of the second helicopter and the men. And so they start doing their little duel of psychic abilities, and she starts to put up both hands to show more superior power. Then he's like fighting it really hard, and he puts out his hands too later, and then he starts yelling because actually, in all intents and purposes, she's more powerful than him. Okay, yeah. But she's not fully developed yet. And so he starts yelling, and he tells them to get to the chopper and go, right? And he says, I can't hold it. And the rest of the group is like, fall back, let's go, hook in, move it, come on. And so they get into the chopper, and Magneto throws the chopper so they can escape out of her grasp. And then everything she does here is kind of dumb. So she now takes her hand and throws Magneto into some furniture or whatever, right? And she says, he says, leave this place. And he says, she has the nerve to say, I need your help. After what she just did. Right? Oh, come on, man. So, let's see here. I thought you protected mutants. Yeah, I'm protecting them from you. And so anyway, he says, you need to leave. And then she starts to get that look on her face like, oh, somebody else abandoned me, you know?
Yeah.
And so she ends up flying off as she usually does, right? And so now the news is coming in. It's important that they fade from this to the next scene based on what they're about to say. Word come in late tonight that Congress is considering temporary mutant internment facilities. Why is that important? Because that's the world that Magneto comes from, World War II Germany, right? And so for those powers have been deemed a clear and present danger to human citizens. This coming on the heels of the Jean Grey incidents, which, after destroying 2 communities and attacking police and military personnel, I'd like to talk. Okay, so that's that. And so now Professor X is like, trying to call the president here. And he says, I'd like to talk to the president. And the man says, Mr. Xavier, this phone will no longer be operational. So he's cut off, right? I have to tell him not to do this. There is no need to throw away everything that we've accomplished. And so you have to give us a chance, and line disconnects. All right. Now we're getting to some of the more important breakdown aspects. I'm just keeping some of this in line so you can get context of what's going on. I just don't want to drop it on you. So some of the stuff that were necessary personally to actually explain were important to the through line. So now we're in a bar, and they say there's an international search for underway for Gray. So this guy in the hat might not be anybody, right? And it says authorities are urging citizens to keep their distance. Any sighting should be reported to the police immediately. And so government officials have this man. Oh, so it's somebody switched the station. So this part right here is not important. And so the guy at the bar says, "Give me another." And then we see this clown show up. "Hello, Gene." And now we see that Jean is really the old man, masking herself through psychic abilities, through everybody's mind, projection, right? So she says, "You can't control my mind like theirs." She says, "I'm not like that." And then Jean says, "How did you find me?" She says, "Let's just say I have friends in high places." Who are you? The better question is, this is where we start to get the breakdown of Jean's character in reverse. She's going to try to deconstruct her. Okay? So the better question is, who are you? Are you a scared little girl who answers to a man in a chair? Or are you or are you the most powerful creature on the planet? So here comes the manipulation, right?
Yeah.
"I don't know who I am." She says, "Yes, you do. You're the girl who everyone abandons." Maybe they had good reason. Because of what's inside of you? You're afraid of it because you think it makes you bad, evil. All the words you've been taught to keep you in line. That's demonic.
Right.
That's Satan right there. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Just like when he was talking to Eve.
Yep.
Right? It says, words created a very long time ago. Who do you think she's trying to talk about? Yeah. By men with very little minds. Right? And so now she says they can't begin to comprehend what you are. Even your X-Men. She says, and you can. This is kind of like the talk between Anakin and Palpatine.
Right.
And so she looks at her with this look. She doesn't really explain anything. So anyway, now we get to distant engine is roaring and the X-Men plane. Oh, so this is somebody coming to visit Magneto. And so it's Hank, and he says, "I'm alone." He says, "What? No Charles?" And then why are you here, Hank? And so what's explained is pretty much I cut it out because it was taking up too much. Okay.
Yeah.
I cut it out. Basically, him and Hank are talking about is going to kill Jean. That's the decision. Okay. So now, before this, I skipped a lot of the third act. So what I skipped was they arrived in New York, and Magneto and Charles get into it. Scott threatens his life about killing his girlfriend, and they get into a whole little mutant battle that was kind of dumb in the streets and all this stuff, and powers this and that and the other, right? And then Magneto takes a train from out of the subway and brings it up to kind of block off his enemies, and then walks into the hotel lobby with the subway train. That's not here. I cut that out. Okay, we don't really need to see that. So now we're getting to part of the crux of the final act.
Yeah.
So Professor X, she did away with Magneto.
Yeah. She tries to crush him in his helmet. Yeah.
Yeah. I should actually have those screenshots. I hope it's not jumbled up. But anyway, if it is, we'll just whatever. So anyway, Professor X comes in, and again he's trying to have an emotional conversation with her, but the female Satan is right next to her, and she pretty much convinced her that she's the most powerful entity. And so anyway, there was the whole scene. Is it here? Is it here? There was a whole scene where she talked about the entity and that creation. It created the universe.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's got to be here somewhere. But anyway, if it's here, it's here. So anyway, so that brings her to believe that she is the most powerful on the planet because she wants to control what's inside of her. Okay. And so now she's telling Professor X to walk to her. And she's like, I can't. And he grunts as she starts to make him walk by controlling his body.
Puppet on a string, yeah.
Yeah, like puppy on a string, right? And so he starts to walk up. She crushes his wheelchair. And as he's walking up the steps there, he looks retarded. And this is such a dumb scene, but anyway.
Yeah, it is.
Starts panting. And the woman there just standing there looking stupid as she's controlling him. And she says, he says, I can't see in your mind anymore because you can't, but you can see mine. Then let's Professor X start talking. And he says, so look, Jean, look. And what you choose to do with your gift, well, that's entirely up to you. Going back to the beginning. And Charles groans. This could be your new home. As they're driving back in the car, we could be your new family because you are not broken. And she's kind of, sort of snapping out of it, but not really. And so he starts groaning. And it goes back to the father again. Then you'll take her. And he says, yes, I can help her in ways that you can't. She can't be helped, the father says. She's a lost cause. And Charles says, no, she's not. As long as there's someone to care for her who believes, then there's still hope. And she starts crying. And he says, then there's still hope. And she's still crying. And he drops to the ground and panting. I knew you were still in there. And then Vuk says, he just showed you your past. Follow me. Okay, here it comes. Here it comes.
Yeah.
In your future, she said no. And so outside, the guards are pretty much neutralizing the rest of the mutants outside, the X-Men and whoever else is out there. And she said, I never asked you for this, any of it. She said, I traveled the stars for a gift that you don't want. And then she starts to touch her, and then she wants to take it, but Jean is saying, take it. And she says, please take it. Free me. And she got this ugly look on her face, and then she says, I'll try. And then the power of the Phoenix Force starts flowing out of Jean into Vuk. They are, again, apprehended outside by the military. Storm. Back inside, we see the Force around both of them. And she's actually almost successful draining the power from her. But Scott says, stop it, you're going to kill her. And she says, your lives mean nothing to me.
Yeah.
Your world would be ours. You kill us all? Yes. But wait a minute. I thought you wanted to start your new beginning and all that. Okay, without us. So anyway, Jean says, she says, Jean, you have to let go. Jean, let go. Let go, Jean, let go. And so she says, let go again as he's hurting. The guards are back outside again, apprehending more. Then Scott runs in and he screams Jean's name, uses his laser blast to blast the alien girl outside on the roof somewhere. Okay? So then he's asking for Jean. Jean. Charles was wrong. I don't know. I can't read her mind. You keep trying to get into people's mind. What's wrong with you? So she's alive. Scott, you have to get her out. And then they get happy ending. Look at that face. So then the lady is there, gets back up. She still has the power in her, at least some of it anyway, and she's looking down on the people being escorted out. She can't do anything about it. But now we get to the train, and this guy tells the X-Men that his kid used to be a fan, and we got Demonic Man here, and the rest of the X-Men all with the collars around. That's from the comics.
Yep.
These are dampeners for their powers. They can't use their powers with the dampeners on, and they do different iterations of this. But anyway, Raven had the right of it. Jean was never the villain. I was.
Yeah. There we go.
I should have never lied to her. I was wrong. But this power inside of her, I never put that there. Oh, you just figured that out, huh? I would never do anything intentionally to hurt her. That isn't me, and this is not Jean. We can still save her. Still, she's still Jean inside. And now we see the third symbolism of her on a cross.
Yep.
The Antichrist symbolism of the divine feminine, the female goddess. But she's not there yet. This is just symbolism, right? And so the pilot says we're 10 miles out from mutant containment center. So that's where they're taking them to. And right here, these are the alien people that are in a tunnel that the train's about to go through. And so what's exactly controlling her? He says, I don't know. But this woman, this thing, has had a taste of that power, and she'll be coming back for more. She'll be coming back for Jean. And Magneto says, good, let her. And so Charles, she'll kill her to get it. But I promise you, the killing will not end there. That's not what Raven would have wanted. You know that you both do. And then there starts to become some rattling. And what's going on right now is, you see on the train top there, those alien people, what do you want, body snatchers?
Yeah.
They're on top of the train trying to get in, and this lasts for minutes. I mean, I had to skip a ton of it. So the gunner starts to shoot his 50 cal at the top. Said Alpha 1 have multiple hostiles on board, and they're heading to the back. Open 4 to 5. Copy that. The rest of you stay here. Guard the prisoners. So, Magneto's like, tell them, don't be fooled. You need our help. Lead guard, lock it down now. And so somebody says something about the muties come to spring you. They're not mutants. Free us. You're going to need our help. We're the only chance you have. Keep your mouth shut. And so anyway, this is a little bit later. They burst in, and the annoying guys right there, and they tried to shoot him. Bullets are kind of useless to these guys.
Right.
So they're just going right through him. And so he grunts and screams and head towards the guards and kill them. So the guy in the helicopter is shooting at the train top. Doom, 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 doom. It's more on the train than it seems.
Yeah.
And so what's the status of those mutants? Lead guard, we're falling back now. They're not radio static. So basically, dude is dead, right? They're not what? And they're not mutants. They're here for Jean. How do you know they're here for Jean? Anyway, so guards, get ready to open fire. Demon Man stammers and says, your kid was right about us. We could help you. And the thudding on the door, and boom, one enters and they start firing at him. He shows them that their bullets are useless. And Annoying Man comes in choking out another guard. This guy, this was a long scene. So the guy right here with the 50 cal was shooting at a ton of them, and he's dead now. So the next thing is the guard starts to open the release the dampeners off of the mutants here, and so a big battle ensues. Annoying man is there, and he says, "Oh, we only want the girl. Step aside." And of course, he gets pushed back. No. And somebody says, "What are you doing?" What Raven would do, and he turns into a werewolf and starts to growl, whatever. And he says, "Scott, get me to Jean," right? And so we have big battle and all this stuff, and the storm is doing her witchy poo powers, and lightning strikes, and she tries to take out some people at the top, and she's out there for a little bit, and then in this scene, let's see what's going on here. I think Scott is yeah, he's about to break into this cart that has Jean on the cross. And so he's telling her to wake up. He says, "Jean, wake up, you have to wake up." And here comes Annoying Man again, coming towards Magneto, and he pretty much crushes everybody in that car, in that what's it called? The train.
Say that again. Oh yeah, the train car there.
Yeah, the train car. Yeah, he crushes everybody in the train car. All right, so they're dead for good, I think. I think. So he also the train car also gets thrown off the bridge there. So and he throws it away, right? So then we have Annoying Woman, Vuk, that's fighting Beast, pretty much dismantles him. Storm comes down to do some stuff with her lightning storm god power and does nothing to the woman because the woman has the Phoenix Force inside of her, and so she takes it back and throws Storm's power back at her. She grunts and flies off into the train, and so Magneto is pretty much taking charge here, while Scott is doing whatever he's doing, trying to keep people out of that car there with Jean in it, and so she comes to fight him, and she says she has no desire to fight him, and he says he gets that a lot. You wanted her dead, and he says I had a change of heart, and so now what he does is he takes all of the guns out the armory and starts to aim them at her and starts to shoot her, but it does nothing. And this goes on for a few minutes. Nothing, nothing. And so back in the cart now, in the car, he says, "I was trying to protect you." He's always saying that. "I was trying to keep the pain away, but you just buried it, Jean." And now we're in her mind, or his mind, really. He says, "Where are we inside my mind? It's more peaceful than mine." Wait, hold on. Oh, he says, "Are we in my mind?" And it's more peaceful than mine. She says, and then "I'm so sorry for what I did to you." She says, "I know. And all I ever wanted was to protect you and give you what you deserved. What every child deserves, a family." And she says, "Yeah, I know you did what you did out of love." No, he didn't. Um, "I forgive you." And so back in the cart now, the guns have ran out or something, and she's healing. And she takes Magneto and does something to him. And so he lost the battle there, but he's not dead. So she breaks in, and Scott is thinking that he could do something. He fires at her, and she fires back his own power back at him, and he drops unconscious. And back in the mind now, she says, "I know what I need to do now." And he says, "What is that?" And so she says, "Protect my family." And she breaks off everything off of her because that's the power she has. And she raises like a cross and starts to manifest more power all over the cart. But she protects everyone in there that belongs to her. And this part, she lifts the train up and does some crazy stuff with it, and it lands in another setting here soon. Right there, everybody's protected by that little bubble from the beginning of the movie. She put the casing around them, and we end up in this area. And so, metal clangs and a bunch of destruction. I skipped a lot of it. And so here, the dust is settling, but those alien dudes are now running after her to apprehend her. I don't know why they're so stupid, but anyway, they get turned to dust. That one runs off. Almost. This one gets turned to dust. This one gets turned to dust. More coming. Turned to dust. She flies towards the other ones. Guess what? Turned to dust. Gosh. And this one behind her, he impales her. But the Phoenix force inside of her is not letting her die. And so it kind of goes back, and then guess what? He gets turned to dust, right? And so the full power of the Phoenix, the demonic power, is coming to fruition through her rage and emotions, right? And so Vuk now tries to come, runs at her to make sure she grabs her so she can finish taking the power from her. And they keep going through this. And she's actually doing it in a sense. She says, "You want this power? You're gonna get it." And it starts to fill the environment. And Scott is looking on, and it's coming towards him, and he starts to get. It's sort of like Wolverine in the other movie. It starts to kind of dust him too, but he says, "Ah, Jean," and she looks at him and she sees what's happening, and Vuk is straining and says, "You can't control it. If you kill me, you'll kill them." And everybody's looking on, and so she's looking. So she decides to use what's going on, the power, to take her into the sky. And she says, "Your emotions make you weak." And that's a whole thing from Satanism as well. So Professor X says, "Jean, enough," and gasps, and she takes her up into the sky as she rages. And she says, "You're wrong. My emotions make me strong." And so Vuk starts to get too much of the power, and Jean is overcoming her. And now Jean herself starts to transform and turn into a demon of light. And there we have it. And there's an explosion in the sky. Everybody sees it. And now we get the full force of the Phoenix as you see the bird in the heavens. She has become a fully evolved goddess. And they say she's gone. Everybody looks on. And Professor X says she's free. And again, this movie copies beats from X-Men: The Last Stand. And I'll just give you a little portion of it. This is the house they were in X-Men: The Last Stand, where Professor X was confronting Jean and doing the same thing, trying to emotionally talk her down and whatever, but clearly she's manifested, right? And the person says, "No, Jean, that's actually Magneto in the background, trying to tell her not to do this to Professor X." And Professor X is looking at her, trying to fight her psychic powers, but he can't. He's overpowered. And he says, "Don't let it control you." Same beats from this movie, okay? And then this is her final look at him, and then she kills him. Now, the part about her becoming a goddess is also reflected, not the goddess part, but the part where she's now one with the Force. This is reflected also in Rogue One, Star Wars, where you see this guy doing his mantra, I'm the Force is with me, I'm one with the Force is with me. And then when he dies, his friend that didn't believe in any religious thing says that I'm one with the Force and the Force is with me. So I just want to give you that little piece there that you can connect some dots in movies that you're watching. So then there's the plaque that's put up for Jean Grey. And she starts to say in the monologue, where she's really talking to the audience, I know who I am now. I am simply what others want me to be. I'm not destined to a fate I can't control. I evolved beyond this world. There is not, this is not the end of me or the X-Men. It's a new beginning. And so later we see Charles and Magneto at a table. Magneto's trying to get him to play chess, and I'll skip this part because it's not important. But later you see the Phoenix in the sky. It's kind of dumb, but you know that's what they show at the end of the movie. And that is the breakdown of Dark Phoenix. For those that stayed, you got a bunch of information. I hope you took notes, and if you didn't, you want to go back and take notes. But I think that's one of the longest breakdowns we've ever done. And so 2 minutes and 2 hours and 11 minutes. And so I want to thank you for joining me, and we'll be back soon with another movie and some Reign of the Tech and stuff like that. Don't forget that memberships are open, and support us however you can. The links are in the link tree, Patreon, wherever you can. We need your support. We are custom subscriber funded. So keep us on air. Please support us. And that's it for our breakdown. This is Chris from Don't Let Them Burn. Remember, seek Jesus Christ with all your heart. This expose shows you what's coming to your mind when you watch some of these movies. Not all movies, just some of them, but it's a lot of them. Okay? So good night, and thanks to the moderators and everyone that participated. See you later.
If you like our videos, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to get all our frequent updates.